Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We're broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios. We're brought to you this hour by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. We've got a lot to talk about a little bit later in the show. An interesting story. A board member got ousted by all the other members on the board, only to sue and to get back on the board again. That's got to be a friendly group to work with, isn't it?
Yeah.
After getting ousted?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that and what that means and what homeowner associations should remember. But our next story here, we're going to turn our attention to the FHFA transfer fee restrictions. Now, if you remember, the Federal Housing Finance Agency ended up having some pushback maybe a year and a half ago or so. I think basically from the National Association of Realtors, who are complaining, saying that there are these extra fees that are being added on to the sale of a unit to homes in a homeowners association, right. And they thought that they were becoming prohibitive and getting to a point where people were not, that this was a reason people were not buying
right.
homes. And they said
it was
this
making
needs
that
to
much
stop.
Difference in the decision to buy or not.
Yes.
It was called the transfer fee, is that right?
The transfer fee,
yeah.
Yes. And the transfer fee is something that has been done as a practice. I'm thinking of the 26 years I've been in this industry. This is something that we've been doing with our clients, I think, for a better part of 10 years or a little bit more.
The original regulation was targeted toward developers, was it not?
No, that was the intent, I think, but
was to prevent developers from adding on additional
yes.
fees at the first sale.
But the way things are written, what someone in government tries to accomplish and then what they actually write can be two different things. And I think that's what that was of a big concern for CAI National, and they've spent the last year in a real hard effort to try and to get people to look at it.
That's because the way it was written was affecting the homeowners association's ability to charge fees at closing for things like reserve fund,
yes,
and other move-in, move-out expenses. Or
whatever.
And
let me even take a step back for some of our listeners to the transfer fee or that was added here at a closing. The idea or thought process went like this. They said when a person purchases into a brand new property because you need to get the reserve fund kick-started and you need to begin to have money set aside for the future replacement of major capital replacement items like roofs and siding. Let's ask for 2 to 3 months worth of association assessments, one time for everybody brand new.
Right.
That gets set aside in the reserve fund.
And traditionally that was charged just at the initial sale, wasn't it?
At the initial sale.
Yeah.
And there's a number of us in the industry, not just here in Minnesota, but I think everywhere else, we all said, well, wait a minute. We've had our clients say, well, if that happens just for the first person, can't we do it?
Right.
For all other buyers into the association.
So that every new owner puts some skin in the game of the association, contributes some money to that long-term replacement fund.
And I remember what we did, and I'm sure what a lot of our colleagues did as well from other firms. You check with your attorney,
right?
And they said, I don't see any reason why you can't. And so for 10, 11 years or so, a good number of our associations, for everybody who purchases even after that initial first home buyer of that unit, they pay 2 months' worth of association assessments, and that gets set aside for the reserves because we know that a lot of homeowner associations generally are underfunded and not overfunded in the reserves.
It's been very, very helpful to homeowners associations to be able to do that. And now the state of Minnesota requires adequate reserves legally of the association. So it's been very helpful to communities to be able to do that.
So there was this prohibition, but of course when it was first written, it didn't make any distinction at all. So it looked like associations would have to stop doing that as well.
Yeah.
And it looks like now, as of this last February, the rule has been made, and I think it goes into place a little bit later this year, finally, where it will be the case where it's carved out where associations will be able to still ask for the transfer fee, but developers who are the first homeowner association will not be able to do that.
Okay.
And I think I still have some concerns with that because there's this thinking that somehow in our society today that all business is just bad and evil, and there's this assumption that people are just doing it to make gobs of money.
Well, I think, Gene, in the earlier stories we read about this, that is what the developers were doing. It was money they were keeping. I don't think they were talking about the reserve fund money as a transfer fee. Developers were adding on fees that they kept because part of the regulation was the reason they said they needed the regulation was because there was no shown purpose for that money that would benefit the community.
But there's a particular case where I think still would not be a form of greed for a developer, and let me develop that if I can. There are a couple of choices that a developer has when they begin a new association. One is they can pay all of the actual expenses and not charge anybody a monthly assessment fee until such time that they turn it over to the association. Some developers were doing that, so they weren't charging any money at all
before the homeowners took over.
And the reason why is because the irrigation system isn't in, so why start charging all homeowners $200 a month for their assessment
when there's no lawn to mow, there's no water to pay for it?
Because if you went to the state statute says if you go that far and you start charging all the units that are ready to sell and be occupied but haven't sold yet, the developer has to start paying the association fees.
Right. So they benefited from that decision.
So they calculated and said, hey, look, we're paying less if we just pay for all of the expenses. In those cases, there were developers who were saying, yes, we want to ask for this transfer fee because it's for the operation of the association because others aren't even paying. And in that particular case, I think probably still makes sense, especially when you take a look at a developer who may be into the property now after a year or two, and they still have over 50% of the property that still hasn't sold.
Yeah.
So I still think that there's some things that probably could be looked at.
Well,
but
and
I think
in that
it's much
case, they
better
can show that it benefits the property too.
Yes, but of course, the way it's written right now, that isn't the case.
Right.
The one thing that I didn't like about this was the push from the National Association of Realtors in this particular case, because they were claiming that this fee was really being prohibitive in not allowing a sale to take place.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's disingenuous.
Yeah.
I really don't think that is what was going on. I mean, there are, as we know, you've bought several properties in your lifetime, and you know that there's all kinds of fees that are added on at closing.
Yep.
There's a special fee that the mortgage company charges other than their origination fee.
That's right.
The real estate company has a fee that they add on. The management company does because there's work that they need to do in preparation for disclosures. And so now here the association
Well, then
saying,
there's title fees,
Yes.
there's county fees, there's HUD fees, there's all kinds of
and
stuff.
so now the association gets into the act and says, we have a fee too. And now they're saying, wait. This is the straw that breaks the camel's
this is
back.
one fee too many.
I really,
Yeah.
to me, it seemed to be a stretch.
It was more a function of a poor real estate market that we just went through. Don't you think that had a lot more influence on their ability to sell condos than a
I
transfer fee?
Yeah. So I think I think they probably went a little bit far, but I'm happy to see how things are turning out, because I think at least this is something that's much more workable for the average homeowner association.
Yeah.
Ben, and a much needed, program to keep intact, to keep those reserves funded.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, we need to take another break. Don't go away. There's a lot more of Where You Live after these messages.